Good morning. The House will come to order. All those in the galleries in the chamber, please rise, and we'll begin our day today with a prayer by Monsignor Kerwicki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let us all bow our heads and pray. O God of our beloved ancestors, amid the tension of troubled times, may we keep within our hearts a calm and quiet place where you live, where your power strengthens us, your wisdom makes us wise, and your goodness keeps us good. At times, we may need to withdraw from our heavy workload and the noisy hallways and silently lift up our hearts to you in prayer. Then, alive with your Spirit, may we face our daily tasks with new courage, new faith, and new hope. Bless our Missouri Supreme Court. Make it faithful in devotion to the truth, great in a desire for justice, strong in willingness to serve, and wise in their dealings. By doing your will, may we all bring satisfaction to our minds and joy to our hearts. And the House says, Amen. Amen.
Please remain standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Gentleman from Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the approval of the House Journal for the 19th day, Tuesday, February 7th, 2023.
The gentleman from Jackson has moved for the approval for the House Journal for the 19th day, Tuesday, February the 7th, 2023. Are there any additions or subtractions to the journal? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving for the journal for the 19th day, Tuesday, February the 7th, 2023 will signify by saying aye. And those opposed, no. And the ayes have it. You've approved the journal. Gentleman from Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next order of business will be first reading of House bills and joint resolutions.
Mr. Clerk, please read the House bills and House joint resolution.
House Joint Resolution 5-9, introduced by Chappelle, an act relating to voter qualifications. House Bill number 1090, introduced by Faulkner, an act relating to payments for certain contracts. And House Bill number 1091, introduced by Shields, an act relating to opioid antagonists.
Gentleman from Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next order of business will be House bills for perfection. House Committee substitute for House Bill 115 will move to the informal calendar. Mr. Speaker, I now ask you to recognize the gentleman from Jasper for a motion on House Committee substitute for House Bill 301.
Gentleman from Jasper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 301 be perfected and printed.
The gentleman from Jasper has moved that House Bill 301 be perfected and printed. Gentleman from Jasper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Committee substitute for House Bill 301.
The gentleman from Jasper. I'm sorry, gentlemen.
I move that it be adopted.
The gentleman from Jasper has moved that the House Committee substitute for House Bill 301 be adopted. Gentleman from Jasper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the title for House Committee substitute for House Bill 301 be agreed to.
The gentleman from Jasper has moved for the adoption of the title for House Committee substitute to House Bill 301. Any discussion on the title? Seeing none. All those in favor of adopting the title will signify by saying aye. And those opposed, no. And the ayes clearly have it. You've adopted the title. Gentleman from Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That bill will hold its place on the calendar. Mr. Speaker, next order of business will be introduction of special guests.
Introduction of special guests. Gentleman from Jackson.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I ask for your attention for just a moment to introduce some very special guests. The Missouri State Historical Society of Missouri sponsors National History Day, which is the state affiliate of National History Day. Each year, thousands of Missouri students in grades 6 through 12 participate in the program. These students conduct extensive historical research on a topic they choose and present findings by creating documentaries, exhibits, papers, performances, and websites. Nearly 3,000 students compete in regional contests throughout Missouri, and 500 advance to the state contest held at the University of MIZ Columbia in April. Top winners in each category earn the opportunity to serve as Missouri delegates to the national contest in College Park, Maryland in June. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, to your right and my left, under the word honor, are these very students. Please give them a warm Missouri welcome.
Welcome to the House. Further introductions. Gentleman from Greene.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Introduction to special guest.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, it is my privilege to reintroduce to this chamber Dr. Roy Holen, who served as a member of this body from 1997 to 2005. He is between the third and fourth columns on your right and my left. And Dr. Holen has practiced as an orthopedic surgeon in Springfield and Greene County for more than 30 years and is an honored part of our community, and it's a privilege to have him here. I would ask that the body would give him a warm welcome.
Welcome to the House. Gentleman from Cape.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for introduction of special guests.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many of us in this body enjoy a warm, loving relationship at home, but not everybody in our state can say that. Today, it's my distinct honor to introduce two people that are making a difference on the front lines every single day. Mr. Speaker, to your right and to my left, between columns 3 and 4, it's my honor to introduce Ms. Jessica Hill, the Executive Director, and Ms. Kim Dixon, the Shelter Director for the Safe House of Southeast Missouri. These women help those of our members of our community in their direst time of need to provide a hope and a helping hand to rebuild their lives. Please join me in giving a warm house welcome to these women that serve us every day.
Further introductions. Lady from Jefferson.
Thank you. I'd like to make an introduction.
Please proceed.
Thank you. The sacred keepers of the records for our state courts are here today. Without their diligence and good work, the citizens of our state may not have the trust that they have today in the accuracy of our court records. Their work and the work of their deputies is essential for the smooth operation and stellar reputation of our judicial system here in Missouri. So I'd like to introduce to you, to your right and my left, the Circuit Clerks, Missouri Circuit Clerks Association, and they are represented by President Tiffany Phillips from Polk County. She's the Circuit Clerk of the 3rd Circuit Court. Eric Stallo. Christy Blakemore from Boone County. She's the Circuit Clerk of the 13th Circuit Court. And my better half, my husband of nearly 35 years, and from my home county of Jefferson, and also from my home in Imperial, the Circuit Clerk of the 23rd Circuit Court. Please welcome the Missouri Circuit Clerks Association and my husband, Michael Reuter.
Welcome to the House. Further introductions. If the House would indulge me in an introduction, to my left and your right, between the first two columns, is Michael Lundgren, Saida Corneo, Josh Hawkins Finn. They are from the Coro Group, and they're going to be shadowing various representatives for this week as they take in and learn what we do here in the state of for the state of Missouri and Jefferson City. If the House would please make them feel welcome. Seeing no further introductions, gentleman from Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next, we will be voting to suspend House Rule 123 to allow members of the Senate and the Chief Justice to enter the chamber.
The gentleman from Jackson has moved that House Rule 123 be suspended to receive the Senate and the justices from the Supreme Court into the chamber. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of voting to suspend House Rule 123 will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. Mr. Clerk, please ring the bell and open the board. Has everybody voted? Mr. Clerk, would you please call the absentees?
Allridge, Bland Manlove, Bosley, Brown 87, Cristofanelli, Crosley, Dahl, Ely, Evans, Hine, Keithley, Mackey, Mann, Morris, Nixon Clark, O'Donnell, Pfeiffer, Prouty, Roberts, Sharp 37, Smith 163, Strickler, Wyndham, and Young.
Has everybody voted? Has everybody voted? Mr. Clerk, please close the board and tally the vote. By your vote of 141 yea, 0 nay, and 0 present, you voted to suspend House Rule 123. Gentleman from Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We will now have the State of the Judiciary address.
Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. Speaker, the members of the Senate now approach the chamber.
Sergeant at Arms, open the doors, please, and allow the members of the Senate to enter the chamber.
The joint session of the 102nd General Assembly, first regular session, will come to order. The clerk of the House will open the board. All members of the House will signify their presence by voting aye. Mr. Clerk, please ring the bell and open the board. The Secretary of the Senate will call the roll for the members of the Senate.
Senators Arthur, Bean, here. Beck, Bernsketter, Black, here. Bratton, Brown 16, Brown 26, Carter, Serpoy, Coleman, Crawford, Eigel, Esslinger, Fitzwater, Gannon, Hoskins, Huff, Koenig, Luetkemeyer, May, McCreary, Moon, Mosley, O'Laughlin, Razor, Rizzo, Roberts, Rowden, Schroer, Thompson Rader, Trent, Washington, Williams.
With 135 House members present and 30 Senate members present, a quorum has been established. Will the Joint Escort Committee for the Chief Justice please assemble at the rear of the chamber? Representatives Reuter, Parker, Sauls, Smiths 46, Riley, Veet, Collins, Bangert, Owen, Roberts. Senators Luetkemeyer, Schroer, Coleman, Thompson Rader, Trent, Beck, Razor, Roberts, Williams, and May. As the Escort Committee assembles, I'm happy to introduce our special guests today. Please help me in welcoming our Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft. Missouri Auditor Scott Fitzpatrick. And Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Also, please help me welcome our special guest to my right, Judge Mary Rhodes Russell. Judge W. Brent Powell. Judge Patricia Breckenridge. Judge Zell Fisher. Judge Robin Ransom. Judge George W. Draper III. And Clerk of the Missouri Supreme Court, Betsy Abishan. Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. President, the Chief Justice of the Missouri Supreme Court now approaches the chamber.
Sergeant at Arms, open the door to allow the Chief Justice to enter. The Escort Committee will escort the Chief Justice to the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Chief Justice of the Missouri State Supreme Court, Justice Paul C. Wilson.
Thank you. Good morning. Speaker Plocker, Lieutenant Governor Kehoe, President Pro Tem Rowden, members of the 102nd General Assembly, statewide office holders, cabinet members, executive branch officials, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this morning. Earlier this year, I had the privilege of speaking to a number of new legislators. It occurred to me, not for the first time, how incredibly difficult your role is. You come to this magnificent building with a lifetime of expertise and achievement in so many separate fields: education, law enforcement, agriculture, business, and so many more. You gather from all these diverse backgrounds to take on a new challenge, to help manage one of the largest and most complex businesses there is, state government. Of course, there's simply no way you can learn all there is to know about everything the government does, not in 1 year or 1 term or 1 lifetime. So my job this morning is to try to describe for you the part of government I know best, to tell you who the judicial branch is and what we do. You all know Government Relations Counsel Patricia Churchill and Betsy Abashan, Clerk of the Supreme Court, and you've been introduced to my 6 colleagues on that court, but we are not the judiciary, not even close. No, the heart and the hands of the judicial branch are the 400 circuit and associate circuit judges around this state and the 3,000 clerks, bailiffs, juvenile officers, juvenile detention staff, court reporters, commissioners, and all the rest who work together to resolve nearly 750,000 cases every year. When you add in the full and part-time municipal judges and staff, the number of cases nearly doubles. Together, day in and day out, these are the people who do the work of the judicial branch, and none of them work across the street in the Supreme Court building. Instead, they work in local courthouses across the state. They're your friends, your neighbors, and your constituents. The work they do is difficult, often taxing, and it requires them to handle a high volume of work without ever losing the compassion needed to serve their communities 1 case at a time. They are the judicial branch, and they do the work of one of the most important institutions we have. That's why, to begin with, I want to thank all of you on behalf of all 3,000 of our court employees for the efforts you've made to increase their compensation, especially last year. They understand the importance of the work they do, but having pride in what you do just won't fill the gas tank or pay for child care, and it sure doesn't buy any groceries. That's why I joined Governor Parson in asking that you pass the recommended cost of living adjustment in the FY23 supplemental budget. This COLA will help make sure the ground these employees gained in recent years isn't lost to inflation. In addition, we are asking you to fund the overtime court clerks are already working to meet the unprecedented obligations imposed by the passage of Amendment 3 last fall. Well, that's a little about who the judicial branch is, but what really matters is what we do. We resolve disputes, period. Nearly 1.5 million times every year, courts apply the law to resolve to the facts to resolve the dispute in front of them. The law comes from the people in the form of the state and federal constitutions, and it comes from you in the form of the laws you write and the local ordinances and administrative regulations you authorize. Judges apply this law to the facts to resolve the disputes brought to them. That's it. Lawyers like to make simple things sound complicated, but that's all we do. Figure out the facts of each dispute, who did what to whom, and apply the law to resolve it. Being a judge isn't easy, but it's real simple. What's so important about the justice system is not merely what we do, it's how much of it we do, and how essential it is to have one place in society where the law controls, where facts are proved with evidence, where truth matters, and where justice prevails. The framers knew that in a free society there would be disputes, not only between citizens, but between citizens and their government and between different parts of the government. That's why our Constitution provides for an independent judiciary to resolve those disputes. The Constitution empowers judges not because we're blessed with infallible wisdom. We aren't, or at least I know I'm not, but because the framers understood the rule of law matters. Someone must decide, and those decisions need to have the force and effect of law. The framers knew the only alternative was anarchy, and they were right. Courts are able to fulfill this essential function because the people believe they do. The rule of law matters because the people believe it matters and because they know the courts are there to defend it. Now, what do I mean by the rule of law? Well, scholars have spent thousands of pages debating that question, but I don't think it's that complicated. Think about it this way. Every one of us has pulled up to a blinking red stoplight in the middle of the night with perfect visibility and not another car in sight. We still stop. Why? Because we believe so firmly in the rule of law, we don't even consciously think about it. If that belief falters, if we only follow the laws we agree with, or only when we want to, society won't be fit for any of us to live in. Everything we do depends on that public trust, and all of us have a stake in protecting and fostering it. Here's another more poignant example. Every Friday night, thousands and thousands of parents in this state shuttle their children across town to the custody of the other parent. Why? Because a judge told them they have to. They don't do it because they agree with it. They do it because they respect your laws and the courts that enforce them. Due process ensures these parents have a right to be heard, but they know when the judgment is final, that's it. And it's not just family law. Missouri courts resolve thousands of disputes involving businesses and consumers every year. And both sides, those who prevail and those who don't, comply with those judgments. Not because they agree. One side, and sometimes both sides, can disagree with the court's judgment, but they comply because they believe in the rule of law and they know no one can do business at all without the system of laws you write and the judicial branch to enforce them. If the public loses its trust in the judicial branch and the rule of law, if we return to the time when might makes right, when the mob rules whether you're in it or being chased by it, it will be because we, all of us in this room failed in our duty to safeguard one of the essential institutions created by our Constitution. The rules of professional conduct for lawyers spells this out very clearly. Its preamble states a lawyer should further the public's understanding of and confidence in the rule of law and the justice system. Legal institutions in a constitutional democracy depend on popular participation and support to maintain their authority. But I'm telling you, lawyers and judges can't do it alone. We need your support. No one in this government has a more direct line of communication to the public than the 200 legislators in this room. Our entire form of government is built on that simple fact. You are closer to the citizens of this state than anyone else. And more than that, I believe no one has a greater interest than you do in upholding the public's trust in the judicial branch. We are the ones who apply and enforce the laws you write. So when you speak to your constituents, remember how important it is for them and you to understand and trust your judicial system. I doubt you agree with every decision the seven of us make, let alone the hundreds of thousands of decisions made every year by trial judges all around this state. I know I don't. So if you want to tell your constituents you think we got it wrong, that's your right. But when you do, take a minute to explain that even when you think we got it wrong, you know judges are just public servants like you, doing their best to decide cases based on the facts and their best understanding of the law, because I promise you, that's true. I know the judges in this state. I've spent most of my professional life working in front of and alongside them. As a lawyer, I won and lost. As a trial judge, I was affirmed and reversed. And now, sometimes I'm in the majority and sometimes I'm in the dissent. But I have never met a single judge who didn't do their best to apply the law to the facts to decide each case. They are as committed to the rule of law as you would want them to be, and Missourians deserve to know that. So I'm asking for your help in preserving and promoting the people's trust in the rule of law and their judicial system. Of course, it takes more than education to foster and protect that trust. We work hard to ensure that those who bring or have cases brought against them are treated fairly and with respect, that their rights are protected, and that they understand what the court is doing and why. One of the keys to making Missouri courts more open and accessible is the work we have done on court technology and automation. These innovations have not only revolutionized how we work, they've fundamentally changed how Missourians interact with their court system. Today, most traffic cases can be resolved online. Our e-juror system makes more efficient use of citizens' time when they are called to provide that essential form of public service. Public terminals in every county courthouse and even in your legislative library give Missourians access to any public document in their case or any case across the state. And starting this July, we will begin making the same functionality available over the internet so Missourians can access public court documents when and where it's most convenient for them. For years, remote video appearances were used mostly in early stages of criminal cases to avoid the expense and security concerns of transporting defendants to and from jail unnecessarily. But when the pandemic hit, suddenly these virtual appearances became a necessity for nearly every kind of case. Now, they're a permanent, indispensable part of the judicial landscape. They not only help make judges more efficient, they can make many court appearances more convenient for those we serve. It is astounding how quickly a cutting-edge innovation becomes an essential part of what we do and how we do it. Things we couldn't imagine yesterday, people simply can't do without today. In recent years, you've supported this work by helping to stabilize the various funding streams for court automation, and this year brings another important step on that path. The statute imposing a $7 filing fee for court automation, first enacted way back in 1994, is again up for renewal. Some of the funding for court automation comes from general revenue because the courts serve every Missourian every day, whether they have a case pending or not. Nevertheless, it is fair for those using the judicial system to pay a part of the costs of that system, and this $7 filing fee, which has never gone up in the 30 years we've had it, provides an essential part of the funding for an essential part of our work. I urge you, actually, I'm begging you to renew it this session. We can also strengthen the public's trust in the judicial system by working with you to find better, more just ways of resolving some of the disputes we see every day in courtrooms around the state. One of the best examples of this collaboration has been the way treatment courts respond to defendants with mental health and co-occurring substance use disorders. Each treatment court success story means a prison term or a life-altering felony conviction avoided. It means strengthening our communities by helping one person at a time break the cycle of addiction before it lands them in prison. But even more important, every one of these success stories means a family restored, not shattered. A constructive life returned to society, not lost to incarceration. And so many times, it means a parent who is there to play a meaningful role in their children's lives, not someone those kids see through a piece of plexiglass only once a month, if at all. The return on investment you've made in treatment courts has exceeded every expectation, and the future is even brighter. Not only do treatment courts save money, they're a better and more just way of handling these offenses. But treatment courts can't solve every problem. Increasingly, Missouri courts are finding themselves on the front lines of a growing mental health crisis in this country. Too often, we are confronted with individuals manifesting mental health conditions so profound, they're not even competent to stand trial. Police have to arrest them, and prosecutors charge them both to protect those defendants and the rest of us, but we can't proceed with their case. Medication, case management, and treatment can often restore competency, but delays in getting defendants into traditional inpatient facilities leaves them and our courts stuck in limbo, unable to move forward or back. This is why the Missouri Justice Reinvestment Initiative recommends you strengthen efforts to bring competency restoration services to the defendants where they are by using mobile medication and case management teams, and by employing local behavioral health clinicians, we can get more help sooner to those who need it, restore their competence, resolve the charges against them, and return them to their communities and to community-based care as soon as possible. Missouri courts are proud to be a part of this initiative led by Corrections Director Precythe and Mental Health Director Hune, and we strongly support this recommendation. The mental health crisis is also creating problems for judges outside the courtroom. Violence and threats of violence toward judges and their families are increasing every day. When I spoke to you last year, I recited a frightening list of deadly attacks, both inside Missouri and outside. I won't repeat them. But what I said last year is just as true today. We owe it to those who serve in Missouri's judiciary not to wait until we learn, in the worst possible way, that we waited too long and did too little. This session, you will be considering several bills aimed at protecting judges' private information, and I urge you to give them your most careful consideration. All of the things I've mentioned are things you can do to help courts perform better for all Missourians. But I urge you to use us as a resource as well. Just as we did in 2014 when you rewrote the criminal code, I believe we can help inform the decisions you make throughout the substantive law. When you consider changes, whether to family law, landlord-tenant, debt collection, crimes and punishment, or any one of 100 other areas of law you write, don't forget this. Some of the men and women who know the most about those issues and the important, often competing rights involved are the judges in your communities who hear those cases every day. Judges know the Constitution empowers you to write the substantive law, not us. But I'm hoping you will use them and their expertise to inform the decisions you make. Soon, my time as Chief Justice will come to an end. 142 days, 6 hours, and 2 minutes. But who's counting? So if you will allow me a point of personal privilege, I'd like to thank my wife, Laura, for all of her support, not only while I've been chief, but throughout my career. You'll never know what it cost her, and I ask you to help me thank her now. I also want to take this opportunity to express how profoundly grateful I am for the opportunity to serve the people of this state as a member of their Supreme Court. Each of you, I'm sure, gets a thrill every time you walk into this magnificent chamber, the People's Chamber, and you feel a sense of obligation to fulfill the promises this great building represents. The same is true for me. Every time I walk into the red brick building across the street, I am so very proud of our judicial system and the work it does. Every day I'm reminded how incredibly fortunate I am to play a role in that work, and how thankful I am that I get to do it with colleagues I love and respect. Last year, I had the great pleasure of introducing to you Judge Robin Ransom, our newest member. But for every sunrise, there must be a sunset. This fall, we will lose 2 of our number to retirement. Combined, those 2 judges have served the people of this state for more than 70 years. First as trial judges, then on the Court of Appeals and now on the Supreme Court. Both of them have dedicated their lives not just to the work of the courts, but to the principles of access, fairness, and equal justice for all. Principles that lie at the heart of our justice system. The courts have benefited immeasurably from their work, and we will miss them dearly. Judge Patricia Breckenridge was unable to join us today, but the Honorable George W. Draper III is here. So please help me now in recognizing the lifetime of service both he and Judge Breckenridge have given. Judges, like legislators, come and we go. We're called, we serve, and we step aside. But the institutions in which we serve will go on. No player, no team is bigger than the game. The judicial branch goes on. The legislative and executive branches go on. This government of the people, by the people, and for the people goes on. That's the strength, the miracle of our constitutional democracy. So look around this chamber and think of the millions of Missourians we are privileged to serve. Remember how incredibly precious that opportunity to serve is and how very fleeting it is. And remember, too, when each of us reaches the end of our service, none of us will be judged in isolation on what we alone said or even did. No, we will all be judged, as we should be, collectively, on how well the government, the people's government, worked, on how well it served them. May God bless each of you. May God continue to bless the great state of Missouri. And of course, may God bless Patrick Mahomes' right ankle. Thank you. Thank you.
Senator from Shelby County. Senator from Shelby moves that the joint session be dissolved. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The joint session is now dissolved.
Gentleman from Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next order of business will be announcements.
Announcements. Lady from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Announcement, please.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Transportation Infrastructure will meet 5 minutes upon adjournment in House Hearing Room 7.
Gentleman from Saline.
Mr. Speaker, announcement.
Please proceed.
Your Committee on Rules, Regulatory Oversight will meet in Room 4 for a brief hearing. Thank you.
Gentleman from Jasper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Utilities will meet in Hearing Room 1 in approximately 10 minutes.
Gentleman from Urban Coal.
Just a reminder, your Committee on Corrections Public Institutions will meet today at 5 o'clock in Hearing Room 1.
Gentleman from Washington.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Ways and Means will meet upon adjournment in Hearing Room 5.
Further announcements. Gentleman from St. Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Seeing as it is Bow Tie Wednesday, we will be assembling right by the dais for our official photo after adjournment.
Further announcements. Seeing none. Gentleman from Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Upon return, members should be prepared to debate House Committee substitutes for House Bills 115 and 301. And with no other business before the body, I ask that the House stand in recess until 2 p.m. this day.
The gentleman from Jackson has moved that the House stand in recess until 2 p.m. this day, February the 8th, 2023. All those in favor will signify by saying aye, and those opposed, no. And the ayes have it. The House is in recess.